continuons l'histoire de nos amis Betty et Bill Johnson qui sont venus à Paris pour suivre des cours à la Sorbonne. Ils habitent la cité universitaire parmi beaucoup de jeunes gens qui, comme eux, sont venus des pays étrangers. La Maison internationale est un véritable centre pour toutes les activités de ses étudiants. Parmi ces jeunes gens, il y a un excellent esprit de camaraderie. Ce qui est très intéressant, c'est l'architecture de la cité universitaire. Chaque nation a sa propre maison construite selon le style du pays. Par exemple, voici la maison danoise et la maison des provinces françaises, la maison argentine et la maison d'Espagne, la maison indo-chinoise, le pavillon de la Grande-Bretagne et celui de la Suisse. Mais entrons dans la fondation des États-Unis, où nos amis sont bien installés.
Bonjour Marcel. Bonjour Bill. Bonjour Betty.
Bonjour.
Permettez-moi de vous présenter une de mes amies, Jacqueline Roset, Betty Johnson.
Enchantée de faire votre connaissance, mademoiselle. Moi aussi.
Et son frère, Bill.
Enchanté, mademoiselle.
Ravie.
Je vous emmène dîner dans un petit restaurant de la place Saint-Michel, d'accord?
Très bien.
Et si vous n'y voyez pas d'inconvénient, nous allons prendre le métro.
D'accord, allons-y.
Bonsoir messieurs, bonsoir mesdames.
Bonsoir madame. Bonsoir madame. Est-ce que vous avez une table pour 4?
Mais certainement, si vous voulez bien me suivre par ici.
Betty, voulez-vous vous asseoir sur la banquette? Jacqueline?
Oui.
Bill?
Marcel, pensez-vous que nous aurions le temps d'aller au théâtre français ce soir après dîner?
Oui, mais dépêchons-nous.
Voilà le menu, messieurs, dames.
Merci. Pour commencer, il y a des hors-d'œuvre variés. Que choisissez-vous?
Des œufs durs mayonnaise, s'il vous plaît.
Et toi, Jacqueline?
Salade de tomates.
Et pour vous, Bill? Sardines à l'huile.
Pour moi, filet d'anchois et tomates.
Ensuite, désirez-vous du poisson?
Un filet de salmonière. Moi, je prendrais une omelette aux champignons.
Bonne idée. Pour moi aussi, une omelette aux champignons.
Salmonière.
Très bien. Et ensuite, désirez-vous des grillades?
Pour moi, un poulet rôti au cresson, des pommes frites et des épinards à la crème. Et moi, une côte de veau spaghetti, petit pois au beurre et tomates provençales.
Moi, je préfère un entrecôte maître d'hôtel, bien cuit, et des pommes frites.
Bien, monsieur. Toutes nos grillades sont garnies aux pommes. Et monsieur?
Un steak. Non, un châteaubriand pommes frites avec des haricots verts.
Bien, monsieur. Et comme boisson, que prenez-vous?
Ah, apportez-nous la carte des vins. Merci.
Je vais commander les hors-d'œuvre pendant que vous choisissez.
C'est ça, merci. Que choisissez-vous, Betty? Il y a des vins rouges, Bordeaux, Bourgogne, des vins blancs, des vins rosés.
Une bouteille d'eau minérale, s'il vous plaît. Vichy ou Perrier.
Comment, vous ne buvez pas de vin? Ah, c'est vrai, c'est la coutume française de boire du vin. En Amérique, c'est du thé ou du café, je crois.
On boit souvent un verre de lait frais.
Vraiment, préférez-vous du lait?
Je prendrai une demi-tasse de café à la fin du repas.
Et vous, Bill? Du vin? Car si j'ai bonne mémoire, vous aviez adopté la coutume française.
Oui, du vin rouge de préférence.
Si cela te convient également, Jacqueline, je commande du vin rouge.
Entendu.
Bon, alors une bouteille d'eau minérale Vichy et une bouteille de Beaujolais supérieur 1947.
Bien, monsieur.
Alors, Bill, racontez-moi votre voyage.
Nous avons eu une excellente traversée. Nous nous sommes embarqués à New York, sur l'île de France. Nous avons voyagé en deuxième classe. C'est plus économique et quand même très confortable.
Il y avait beaucoup de jeunes gens sur le bateau. Des étudiants comme nous qui, en juin et juillet, viennent suivre les cours de vacances à la Sorbonne. Quelques-uns allaient en Suisse pour suivre aussi des cours dans différentes universités.
Faisait-on du sport à bord du bateau?
Oh oui, nous avons joué au shuffleboard et nous avons nagé dans la piscine.
Aimez-vous nager, Jacqueline?
Beaucoup.
En hiver, je nage presque tous les jours à la piscine de la Maison internationale, à la cité universitaire. L'été, pendant les vacances, nous allons de temps en temps au bord de la mer, à Deauville.
Peut-être pourrions-nous y aller ensemble au mois d'août? Quelle bonne idée! Peut-on y passer un week-end?
Mais bien sûr, il faudra arranger ça. Est-ce que vous avez dansé sur le bateau?
Oh oui, il y avait un excellent orchestre et de très très bons danseurs.
Alors vous vous êtes amusé pendant ce merveilleux voyage?
Oh oui, demandez à Bill. Il était tellement occupé par les plaisirs du bord que je ne le voyais qu'au moment des repas.
En France, il y a un proverbe qui dit qu'un repas sans vin est une journée sans soleil.
Je propose de porter un toast à nos amis. Que vous fassiez un agréable séjour à Paris.
À votre santé.
Merci, je suis très touché.
Comment va l'appétit?
Oh, j'ai toujours un appétit terrible.
Cette omelette aux champignons est délicieuse.
Ce Chateaubriand est tendre et cuit à point.
J'ai bien fait de ne prendre qu'un repas léger dans le train.
Moi aussi.
Ta solmenière est-elle bonne?
Excellent.
La France est le pays renommé dans le monde entier pour sa bonne cuisine.
C'est bien mon avis.
Tiens, de la musique.
Comment s'appelle cette chanson?
La Seine.
Je connais cette chanson. Je l'ai entendue à New York, chantée par Jacqueline François.
Vraiment, vous connaissez Jacqueline François? Est-ce que les chanteurs français sont très connus en Amérique?
Oh oui, quelques-uns sont même très aimés. Entre autres, Jacqueline François. Elle a une voix si douce.
Aimez-vous les vieilles chansons, Betty?
Je les adore.
Nous parlions de vieilles chansons. Nous devrions aller un soir au Lapin à Gilles.
Qu'est-ce que le lapin agile?
C'est un cabaret à Montmartre. On y entend des poèmes. On y chante des chansons à refrain que le public reprend en chœur. Marcel et moi, nous y allons fréquemment. C'est très amusant. Excusez-moi, monsieur. Avez-vous terminé?
Oui. Nous sommes prêts pour le dessert et le café. Café pour tous?
Oui, merci.
Pour moi aussi.
Oui, je veux bien.
Alors ça vous ferait vraiment plaisir d'aller au théâtre français?
Ça me plairait beaucoup. Et vous, Jacqueline?
Pourquoi pas?
Il est 8h10, mais la salle Richelieu n'est pas loin. Mademoiselle, l'addition, s'il vous plaît.
Qu'est-ce qu'on joue ce soir?
Le voyage de Monsieur Perrichon, c'est une comédie de la Biche.
À quelle heure commence la représentation?
Le rideau est à 8h45.
C'était un repas délicieux, Marcel.
Bien, je suis content qu'il vous ait plu.
Voici, monsieur.
Merci, mademoiselle. Ça fait 2700 francs et 324 francs pour le service. Total, 3024. Voilà, 3050.
Merci bien, monsieur.
Gardez. En France, l'usage veut qu'on donne 12% pour le service, qui est ajouté automatiquement à l'addition.
Tiens, c'est une bonne idée.
Bonsoir, messieurs, dames.
Bonsoir, madame.
Sure. Yeah, every once in a while we pull out a language film, foreign language film, of which we have many for French. Maybe a couple in Spanish. And I just ran across one that I'm going to try to get the sound off of. That's kind of interesting. It's a cornet film. I won't talk any more about it. I'll just let it be a surprise one day. Anyways, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, where we watch old 16mm films, and sometimes we learn things. And like today, we're going to learn about the crawl stroke. So enjoy.
Today, the crawl stroke is recognized as one of the best strokes for both speed and distance. The crawl is not a difficult stroke. Anybody can do it. One of the most important knacks is to relax. Don't fight the water. Let the water play you. In fact, relaxing your muscles, taking it easy, never being in a hurry, is the real secret of all swimming. The crawl stroke has three basic parts: the kick, the arm stroke, and breathing. First, let's see in slow motion and underwater just how to kick the legs. Keep your legs nearly straight with the knees close together. Kick them up and down in a regular, even motion. Don't try to push yourself forward with your kick. Just move your legs up and down. Keep your ankles relaxed. The kick is just an easy up and down motion. Kick, you'll notice, is under the water. The feet don't break the surface much, and there's not much splash. Get an easy rhythm. Some swimmers kick 3 times to each arm stroke. Others kick 4 times. The number of times isn't important. Just find the right rhythm for you and stick to it. Now let's look at the arm movement. First, underwater and in slow motion. The arm stroke itself isn't complicated or difficult. Just move the arms in an easy, smooth circle, one after the other. Notice that the hands go all the way around, down through the water, up, out of the water, and back to make a complete circle. By stopping the motion, we can see how to bend the hand and fingers. This makes a scoop to grip the water. Push the arm down. As you push down, keep your elbows relaxed. Notice that the elbow is bent slightly so that the hand is directly under the body. Now, push the hand all the way back. You use the entire stroke of the arm and hand in the water to drive you forward. This push at the very end of the stroke gives you extra drive and speed. Now, turn your hand and bring your arm and hand out of the water, up and over. See how the arm continues that smooth circle even out of the water. Make your arm motions in a regular rhythm. Take it easy. Don't pull the hands too fast, and don't hurry when you bring them back. Keep your elbows relaxed. It's all done easily, without any motions that would disturb the smooth circle. In the crawl stroke, breathing usually takes the most practice. Let's watch it in slow motion and see how it's done. Breathing is done from the side that feels easiest for you. When your arm gets to the end of the stroke, get your mouth out of the water and breathe in. Breathe out through your nose when your face is in the water. You'll find it's natural to turn your face out of the water because the arm has been pulling to that side. This man breathes from the left. If you find it easier to breathe from the right side, do so. But don't change back and forth. Always breathe from the same side. Breathe each time you take a stroke with this arm. Now let's see the breathing at normal speed. Remember, breathe in through the mouth, breathe out through the nose underwater. Let's look at the crawl stroke and watch the kick, arm stroke, and breathing in relation to each other. Notice the kick, straight up and down in a regular, even motion, ankles relaxed. Now the arm stroke. Arms straight forward, but don't stretch too far, and don't cross them over in front of your head. Pull back in an easy circle, all the way back to get the most out of the stroke. And the breathing. Turn your head out and breathe in through your mouth. Then, when your face is in the water, breathe out through your nose. You've seen the fundamentals of the crawl stroke. Now, get plenty of practice. Practice each part of the stroke separately. Then, put it all together. Swim every chance you get until the crawl stroke gets to be second nature. And always remember to relax. Don't fight the water. Let the water play you. Endurance in the water is mostly a matter of knowing how to relax. Swimming the first 100 yards will be the hardest. But when you get over this hump, it'll be easy for you from then on. Keep trying until you can swim that 100 yards. Don't give up. When you've learned the crawl stroke, you've learned a good stroke for long-distance swimming as well as for speed. And you'll always go a lot farther and get there faster if you take it easy.
Immediately, of course, I didn't see it in the comments, but I think about Billy Squier. Just what happens when we talk about the stroke. Yeah, thanks U.S. Coast Guard for that fine film. So behind me, I have the scanner set up, and hopefully we're going to get this to work right. It seems to be having some issues with tension, which is very annoying. But here's the safest way. Enjoy.
The safest way to school, to the store, to the church, to the movie, to any place. Made by the Pennsylvania State College with the help of the State College Public Schools. And told by me. My name is David Lane. This picture is about something we did in our school this year, and I want to show you what it was. It all started one day when we asked our teacher in the street. Do you know what she did? She took us outside, the whole class, to show us things we ought to know about crossing the streets. She showed us about stop signs that are put up at busy street corners. She took us to a corner where there's a traffic light and showed us how we must cross only when the light is green and to wait at the curb while it's yellow or red. A school safety patrol member met us at one corner to show us how he watches to see when it is safe for us to cross. He explained that we should always wait on the corner until he tells us that the street is clear. But he said to be sure to watch for ourselves, too, and to stay in the crosswalks. Do you know what crosswalks are? They're lines painted across the street to show us where we're supposed to walk. Corners where policemen direct the traffic are the safest. She said they make cars stop while we cross. But she told us always to wait till the policeman motions us to go, and always to watch for turning cars no matter what corner we're on. In class, our teacher had us move our desks together around a big table.
Yesterday we saw how to watch for cars and how to tell when it's safe to cross. We saw that some corners are safer places to cross than others. Corners where there are stop signs and traffic lights, and corners where policemen and school safety patrol help us to cross. Today we'll put into use some of the things we saw and talked about yesterday. Now, who can tell me what this is? Betty?
A street map.
That's right. These lines show the streets around our school. Now, here's a little model of our school. Here's the front door. Can anybody tell me where our classroom is? Edward?
These two windows right up here.
That's right. Now, I'll put this down on the map just where our school is. Here's the sidewalk from the front door to the street. Who knows the name of this street?
That's 4th Avenue.
Yeah.
I live on 4th Avenue right across from the school.
All right, Bobby. I'll write that on the map. Now, can you show us just where you live, Bobby? Suppose this little model represents your house. Put it down on the big map just where your house is.
Right here.
Now, will you draw your path home with this red crayon? We will each draw our path home with a different colored crayon. And that way, when we're through, each person will know which is his own path. Now, Bobby, what path do you take?
Well, I come out the school and walk, but I don't cut right across there. I walk over to the corner.
What street is that?
That's Pine Street.
All right, I'll write that on the map. Pine Street.
Then I cross at Pine Street and walk down the other side of the street to my house.
That's very good, Bobby. It would be shorter for Bobby if he went across the street in the middle of the block directly to his house. But it's wiser for him to cross at the corner. Who knows why? Alice?
Because there's a school safety patrol boy there, and he helps him to cross.
Yes, that's right. Now, this little cutout represents the patrol member. I'll put him here in the corner of 4th and Pine Streets to remind us that a patrol is there to help us. Who knows another reason for Bobby to cross at the corner? Harry?
Well, if he didn't go to the corner, he would have to walk between parked cars, and that would be dangerous.
That's right. Do you have anything to add, Bobby?
Well, the safest place to cross is at the corner, not in the middle of the block, just like it says on that poster. Cross only at corners. That's where the crosswalks are. That's where the drivers look.
That's fine, Bobby. Those are some very good reasons why we should all cross at corners instead of in the middle of the block. Now, who else wants to show us his path home? Someone who lives farther away than Bobby. You do, don't you, Betty?
Yes, I live at Maple, just past 3rd.
Right there.
This is Maple Street, and this is 3rd Avenue.
All right, Betty, I'll write that on the map. Maple Street. Third Avenue. What street is this?
That's Oak Street. There's a traffic light right at this corner.
That's right. I'll put a traffic light on the map to help us remember it. Now, Betty, draw your path home with this green crayon.
Well, I go up 4th Avenue to Oak Street, then cross the street here and here. Go on down 4th Avenue on the other side to Maple. Down Maple, past 3rd Avenue to my house.
Do you find any of the streets especially hard to cross?
Well, I used to. I used to come down and cross Oak Street first, then wait for the light to change and cross 4th Avenue. But I found out that most of the cars that come down Oak Street turn left onto 4th Avenue, like this.
Yes, that's the route of the main highway. How did you change your path?
Well, now I cross to the other side of 4th Avenue first, and then cross Oak Street. That way I miss all the cars that turn left.
That's fine, Betty. Betty has been noticing how the cars go, and that's why she's found an easier way to go home. Now let's see what Betty has along her way that helps her, and what she has that she must watch. Who wants to suggest something? Julie?
There's the traffic light on Oak Street.
That's right. What else?
And there is a stop sign on 4th Avenue and Maple Street.
Yes, we'll put a stop sign there. 4th Avenue's a through street. Why do stop signs help, Grace?
Because the cars slow down and stop, then we can cross. We have to watch for turning cars, too.
Grace and Earl are right. Stop signs are a big help, though we must always be watchful ourselves. Betty could go home up 3rd Avenue. Would that be a good way?
No, there are no stop signs on 3rd Avenue, and I think it would be better to go up 4th.
I think you're right, David. Can we make any rules from what we've seen about Betty's path home? Jack?
Yes, watch for turning cars.
All right, I'll write that on the board. Watch for turning cars. Alice?
Cross at corners where there are stop signs. And traffic lights, too.
That's right, so we have 2 rules. Watch for turning cars, and choose corners where there is some help for you, such as stop signs and traffic lights.
Then Joan, Edward, and Grace put their houses on the map and drew their paths home. We talked about what was good and bad in them. I got to thinking about the way I always went home. I live a little farther from school than most of the children. When my turn came, I had just about made up my mind to change my path.
Where do you live, David?
I live on 7th Avenue, just below Main Street, right here.
That's a long way from school. What path do you take? Draw your path home with this brown crayon.
Well, I have been going down 4th Avenue to Main Street, up Main Street to 7th Avenue, crossing there and going to my house. But I've been thinking, Mrs. Wilson.
Yes?
I've always had trouble crossing at 7th Avenue. Just this morning on my way to school, I had to wait there a long time before I could cross. Main Street is a very busy street, especially at 7th Avenue. That's always been my hardest corner to cross, but just now listening to the class, I thought of something. I think it would be better to cross Main Street at 6th Avenue instead of 7th, and come on home this way.
Why is that, David?
Well, for one thing, there's usually a policeman at 6th Avenue, and there aren't as many cars turning.
That's right. We'll put a policeman down on that corner.
And I think there are more people crossing there, too, and it might be easier for me to cross with them.
Suppose you draw your path home that way, David. I think your idea is very good. And there's some other good ideas in David's path home. For instance, why is it better for David to cross on the north side of Main Street rather than on the south side? Joan?
If he walked down the south side of the street, he'd have to cross Howard Place and Lawson Place. They stop on Main Street right here.
Yes, that's right. By choosing that path, he has only 2 streets to cross instead of 4. Can we make a rule from that? Pete?
Would the rule be always choose your way home where there are fewest corners to cross?
Yes, that's right. If you can, choose a way with the fewest corners to cross. Now, Alice, what is your path home?
Each person in our group drew his path home with a different colored crayon. We helped each other find better ways to go. We worked out a lot of rules about how to choose the safest way to and from school. When we had finished the map, it showed how everybody walks home from school. Even our teacher's path was on it. We decided it would be a good idea for each person to have a small copy of the map with his own way home. Then he could take it with him and show it to his father and mother. We picked a committee to help Mrs. Wilson make them. I was on it. Betty said she would help too, and so did some of the others. That afternoon, our committee got together, and we made up a letter to our parents to put on the little map. Mrs. Wilson helped us draw the streets, but we put in the names and other things ourselves. Then we made enough copies for the whole class, and a few extra, too. In class the next day, we passed out the copies of our map so we could draw our paths home on it. We had the big map right in front of us all the time, so we'd be sure to get our paths drawn in just the same way.
When you've drawn your path on the little map, I'll put my name on it to show that it is just like the path you drew on the big map yesterday. David has already finished his. This is the way it should look. This line shows his path home from school. Yours should look like this, but with your own path drawn on it. Now take your maps home with you today and show them to your parents. Ask them to look them over carefully and read the message you've written on it. I think your parents will be very interested in what you've said.
I knew mine would, because we had talked about it the night before. I told them about my new way of crossing Main Street at 6th Avenue. They liked it. So that evening I showed them my map with my path drawn on it. Dad read the letter we had written. This is what it said. Dear Mother and Dad, this is my map of the way I go to school. I think it is the safest way. Will one of you walk to school with me and see if you think that I have chosen the safest way? Then if you do, will you sign the name at the bottom? With love, David. Dad thought that walking to school with me was a good idea, and he said he'd do it the very next day if we could get an early start. I said we sure could. So the next morning, we started out with plenty of time. We walked on the north side of Main Street, so we didn't have to cross Howard Place and Lawson Place. I told him that we all planned our paths, so we would have the fewest corners to cross. I showed him how I crossed Main Street at 6th Avenue now, instead of 7th. Because there's a policeman there, and because more people cross there. I showed him how stop signs make corners safer to cross, because cars have to slow down and stop. But I told him we always watch for cars anyway, especially cars that turn. When we crossed the street, I showed him the way we watch for cars. First look to the left. When it's all clear, we start across. And of course, I told him we always stay in the crosswalk. Traffic lights make corners pretty safe to cross. But I showed Dad how we always watch for cars anyway, and how we cross only when the light is green. He told me that that was fine, but to watch for cars myself, and not to depend on anybody else. Dad liked our school safety patrol, and the way everybody cooperated with the patrol member. We got to school in plenty of time. Dad thought I'd done a good job in choosing my way, and to prove it, he signed his name on my map. And then he told me something which I think is pretty important. He said that no matter where I go, there is a safest way. There's a safest way to the church, for instance, and Dad thought it would be a good idea for me to figure out what it is. And he said I ought to think about my path to the movies on Saturdays to make sure I'm going the safest way. He said that whenever I go anywhere, the first thing I should do is stop and think and decide which is the safest way. Well, that's what we did in our school this year. I think any school could do it, don't you?
Some strategizing with kids about what's the best way to walk. Trying to head off the impulsiveness of kids going wherever they want based on whims. Pretty great. Very much like how the scale model of the streets and all that, and kind of planning things out. And obviously this was an attempt, this was an idea on how to get kids safely to and from school and other places. And this might have been part of a big program that AAA was trying to do so kids don't get hit by cars running out in the streets and things like that. Of course, this doesn't talk about school buses, which is a whole nother thing as far as the safety issues and all that. And I certainly, as you know, have quite a few safety films about school buses. But right now, let's learn about conducting good music. So is this an educational film for music conductors? I don't know. Let's see. Enjoy.
The symphony orchestra performs as one powerful but sensitive instrument. The conductor, with hands, with arms, with his whole body, sometimes with just a glance, a frown, or a smile, plays this versatile instrument. The ways in which he inspires the orchestra to bring to life the writings of the great composers are reflections of the personality of the conductor. But conducting as we know it today is little more than 150 years old. When orchestras were small, it was often the harpsichordist who would give the signals and beat the time. At times, it was the first violinist who gave the cues with nods of his head and with sweeps of his bow. But as more instruments were added and performing groups became larger, the player leader gradually gave way to the specialist conductor. It was found that it helped to have something in the conductor's hand which could be seen easily from the back row and which was light enough to be handled without tiring. A roll of music. Or a stick with a handkerchief tied to one end. And so, by about 1800, the conductor with his baton took command of the orchestra. Whatever his methods, it is the conductor's function to communicate with the orchestra. His language is a sign language. Both the conductor and the players must understand the language. An important part of what he communicates comes from the score in which the composer has written the music and directions for playing. Thus, in a score, we always find the time indicated by the time signature which we see here. The 4 at the top indicates that there are 4 beats to the measure, and the lower 4 indicates that a quarter note gets one beat. The outline for the basic beats is given by the right hand. This Beethoven symphony opens in 4/4 time. It is conducted this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks this way on a chart. Q, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here on the score of Brahms' Second Symphony is a 3/4 time signature. 3 quarter notes to a measure. Here, our conductor is beating this 3/4 time in a very precise manner. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. Actually, style will vary greatly among conductors. Another very common musical time is 2 beats to the measure. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's take a look at it on the chart. We have now seen in charts and by example the beating of 3 basic musical times or tempos. Other musical tempos are variations of these basic ones. If all a conductor had to do was mechanically to beat time, a metronome would do it just as well, perhaps better. But the conductor must do more than beat out time. He interprets and gives character to the composer's works. Let us watch our conductor as he conducts a portion of the final movement of Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony. Note how he uses his right hand to beat out the slow 3/4 time. Observe that the first beat of a measure is always down, the last beat is always up. The players keep their eyes on the conductor, especially for their entry, or when the conductor establishes a new rhythm, tempo, or mood. The tempo slows as the conductor brings the sound volume down to almost a whisper. Here, he brings in the horns. And now, on cue, the main theme. Musical symbols and words in the score provide clues to interpretation, but the conductor must translate these into signals which each man in the orchestra can follow. For example, the conductor sees poco animato in the score. In Italian, it means a little animated. How little? Or how animated? The conductor decides. Listen. And now, retenuto. broadly translated, retained or held back. Observe how the orchestra slows down and then regains the beat. With signs such as crescendo, the composer indicates an increase in sound volume, and here, in speed too. But how loud? And how fast? Now let us observe the blending of orchestral colors, which is achieved when the color of one choir is added to the other to build the full orchestral sound. The conductor brings in any choir or voice in the way he desires. Let's repeat this passage and see how much it changes in character if the conductor gives more prominence to the strings. We'll try again. This time, observe the predominance of brasses. All this gives the conductor a wide range of artistic freedom. This young conductor will help us illustrate how variations of timing influence a composition. Here is one way Beethoven's Fifth Symphony may be conducted. Now listen to this same passage conducted by another artist. But a third artist, using the same score, may read it in such a way as to compromise between the two extremes. In each case, the tempo and the style have been determined by the conductor. So the conductor, the time beater, the drill master, and the interpretive musician all in one, using this
Yeah, I think they logged some time with a symphony and shot a bunch of films about the different groups, the different types of instruments, and then probably finished it up with this film. Let's see, what do we got? We got lots of films to choose from. So this one's interesting. This one is from a project that we did with the Library of Congress, where we helped with a project for this guide right here, for the Field Guide of Sponsored Films by Rick Kranlinger, where they list over 500 films that is an attempt for a canon of films about sponsored films that are sponsored by some company or organization and have information. And so this is one that was part of that, transferred by the Library of Congress, who we like. At least the film people at the Library of Congress. I don't know about everybody, but here's An Equal Chance.
In Manhattan, in Albany, and in other key communities of New York, there are the offices of a state commission which exists because the people of New York believe that everyone should have a fair and equal chance to earn a living, whatever his race, creed, color, or national origin. Charged with the power to bring full legal redress to any person deprived by discrimination of a just opportunity to get and hold a job, the New York State Commission Against Discrimination consists of 5 commissioners. In discharging its duties, the commission relies not on enforcement procedure alone, but also on education of the public. It uses every means of communication to make the people of the state aware of the law and its aims, and to inculcate a respect for the individual, regardless of race, creed, color, or national origin. For the law against discrimination makes possible more and more rich contributions by those of many races, religions, and national origins. Contributions such as the scientific achievements of the late George Washington Carver, the intellectual probings of Dr. Albert Einstein, which widened so vastly the horizons of man's knowledge, the critical discoveries of Professor Enrico Fermi in the field of atomic science. Yet, for every one of these, there are thousands held down to poverty and despair by job discrimination based on national, racial, or religious differences. For these, barred from any but the most menial and poorly paid labor, regardless of their ability, there once existed not even hope, only the day-to-day effort to get and keep a job in a hostile world.
I don't like to bother you, but I can't go home to my wife and children again without a job. Things are bad. Everywhere I go, it's always the same.
Sorry, we need experienced men.
But I've had plenty of experience.
Can't use you, Mac. But listen, you're holding up the line.
Discrimination, however unthinkingly it may be used, is a terrible weapon to those at whom it is directed, a weapon which strikes at their lives, their living, and those they love best.
Look on the table.
Eviction notice.
What are we going to do?
To help victims of economic discrimination, there was introduced into the New York State Legislature in 1945 the bipartisan Ives-Quinn Bill, in which the opportunity for employment was for the first time defined as a civil right to be protected by law. In public hearings, the people were given a chance to discuss the proposed bill, and make their wishes known to the legislators.
What's more, I contend that you cannot put an end to prejudice just by passing a law.
Mr. Chairman, that may be true, but there's a difference between prejudice and discrimination. Prejudice is an attitude, and the only way that we can combat it is with education. But discrimination in employment is an overt act which hurts people, and we must protect them against it just as we protect them against robbery and murder.
Passed by the legislature and signed by Governor Thomas E. Dewey, the bill became a law by the sovereign will of the people, and the Commission Against Discrimination was set up with offices throughout the state, where complaints may be lodged with field representatives by those who feel themselves wronged. Each complaint is promptly passed on to one of the commissioners, who, in his investigations, again makes use of the personnel in the field. The Commission has established in several communities councils of leading citizens drawn from business, labor, and the professions in order to broaden the battlefront against discrimination. These councils are helped in developing programs by the Commission's Educational Division. To give advice on the problems of law bound to arise in a field which offers little precedent for guidance, the Commission maintains a legal staff headed by a general counsel. Under the law, legal action may be resorted to only when the commissioners have tried unsuccessfully to win compliance by conference, conciliation, and persuasion. Legal responsibility for fair employment practices applies to employers, labor unions, and also employment agencies.
It's very gratifying to know that your employment agency intends to correct its application forms. As you know, the law requires that no one should ask a prospective employee about his religion. He should be hired on the basis of his ability to do the job.
Well, naturally, a man should be hired solely because he's qualified.
Exactly.
Okay, then. Tomorrow I'll get new application blanks. No questions about religion on them.
Splendid. And thanks for your cooperation.
Thank you, sir.
In all their dealings, the commissioners are scrupulously fair to both sides.
Mr. Ventrano, the Commission has made a thorough investigation of the circumstances leading to your dismissal, and we find that you were dismissed as a part of a general layoff and that your nationality had nothing to do with it.
The Commission has opened membership opportunities with equal rights in labor unions to groups formerly barred or segregated in violation of the present law against discrimination and of the New York State Constitution.
Then the union did accept your recommendation.
Yes, sir. The members voted to change the bylaws so any qualified worker can join, regardless of race or religion or nationality.
The Commission stands ready to help the aggrieved, to investigate every complaint, and to take all other legal steps necessary to bring justice to the wronged. But while legal pressure brings correction of specific cases of injustice, the commissioners have found that such pressure, coupled with persuasion, often goes further, changing the employer's basic attitude and therefore his whole employment pattern.
Sure, I want to comply with the law, but I'm not sure my employees would stand for a Negro in the shop.
We haven't found it worked out that way. Employers tell us they've had no trouble when the new worker is qualified. No one has walked out in protest. But of course, you have to pave the way a little. One important thing is to have your shop foreman know how to deal with the situation.
In any plant or factory, there may be a few who, because of ignorance or fear, are potential troublemakers.
Hey, Charlie. How do you like that? Hey, Frank, listen. What's the idea?
We work with white folk around here.
Well, now, look, fellas. On that bulletin board, you'll find a law that says that if a man can do the job, we can't turn him down because of his complexion. Now, this man can do the job, so we hired him.
Yeah. Okay, either he goes or we walk out.
Right. Mm-hmm. You two and who else? Now, look, fellas. Tell you what we'll do. You hang on for the rest of the week, see? By that time, if you can't make an adjustment, well, you can quit and there'll be no hard feelings. How's that? Huh?
Most men carry around with them some pet prejudice, big or little, which they have cherished all their lives, despite its absurdity, but which is apt to collapse completely if they can be induced to face realities. The New York state law against discrimination, by its very nature, confronts people with the necessity of coming to terms with such realities. In all cases on the Commission's records, it has been demonstrated that where those of even the most diverse backgrounds and races work together, get to know each other better, and to respect each other's abilities, their attitudes have invariably changed.
Well, what's the news? You getting through today?
Nah. We're staying, the both of us.
That's fine, okay.
So he's colored. Well, he's a good guy and he's a good worker. He's different. You know what I mean.
Oh, sure, he's different. But they're all different. Then you get to know them and you find out they're just people. Some are good, some are bad. Just like you and me.
In all its cases, the Commission checks up after 6 months to see that the agreement has been observed and to note any improvements in the overall pattern of employment. The Commissioners have found that through a single successful adjustment, they have been able to open the door to countless workers hitherto barred from jobs worthy of their skills. And as more and more people begin to understand and to exercise their rights and responsibilities under the law against discrimination, as more and more states pass similar laws, the ideal of an equal chance for all may become at last an attainable reality, bringing home to the American people the great truth that democracy works best when all work at it together.
A great film. Certainly should be updated and shown again, although it seems embarrassing that we have to do that. But yeah, great film. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. It's been a while. I don't have any particular reason to show this except that I really want to, so here it is.
What, may I ask, is a dear little cupcake like you? Child, we haven't had school or books in ages.
No school? Really?
Why don't you get rid of that school book? You can drop them in here.
It'll get all burned up in there.
Well, of course it will, dear child. And so it should. Books tamper with man's basic, natural ignorance. Now, what could be worse than that?
But I can't burn this book. It's school property.
Nonsense! Apple sugar. You just need to get into the mood.
Books are not where it's at, teaching you how to spell cat. I know you'd rather play, so why don't you throw all your books away? Books are made for burning, the fire is already yearning to put an end to any learning.
1, 3, 5, 9, throw them in, the fire's right.
Put the books in the fire, see the flames growing higher. Burning books is our heart's desire.
2, 4, 6, 8, time to incinerate.
Books will not make you wise, and reading's bad for your eyes. I am sure you agree, so why don't you give all your books to me? Books are made for burning, fire is already yearning to put an end to any learning.
This one here is very good about a man named Robin Hood.
Put the books in the fire, see the flames growing higher. Burning books is our heart's desire.
Though I never liked Tom Sawyer, I won't be a book destroyer.
only confuse, teaching you things you can't use. You should listen to me. Burning your books will set your mind free.
Stop. This goes out to my librarian and teacher friends who have to deal with this nonsense. When I first showed this film, it was a novelty, but now it's some people feel like it's okay to pull some books off shelves, and so all right, no more soapboxing. Thanks for joining us today. Please rewind and love each other. Otherwise, the rewind devil might come on your doorstep and punish you. I don't know if that's the message I really want. Now, let's just go with the smiley face with the eyelashes. If you like what you saw, you can go to ko-fi.com/avgeeks. There is you can donate coffee there, which is something that we use on a daily basis. It is our drug of choice, caffeine. You can also go to avgeeks.com and buy DVDs, but also I've been experimenting with showing a 24-hour AV Geeks channel and showing films and previous lunchtime shows. There's also a home movies channel where we just show home movies. And again, 24/7, 7 days a week. So if you're tired or you're an insomniac, the home movies might be what you need. Thanks for tuning in today, and we'll see you soon. Everybody have a good rest of your day.